Fear Street Part 2, 1978. This is of course the second part in the Fear Street trilogy. It's interesting how they're doing this, because they've started off with the first one was in the most modern day. This one going back to 78, the final one, is going to go further back to the origins of this witch. I didn't want to say too much in the first video to avoid spoilers. I'll talk more kind of about the first one, assuming you've already seen the first one if you're watching this. So the general story is, certainly in the first one, was that there's a witch who made a deal with the devil, took her hand off to get immortality, but this in turn led to the death of her daughter, I believe, and so the whole point of it is that she's trying to kind of get her hand back with her body. In the first movie they find the body, and in this movie they find the hand. Now this one takes place out in a camp following the kids and the counsellors. What I'll say is, one, this film picks up immediately after the first one. I like seeing that. You're able to binge it, especially because they've been built as a trilogy. This film leans a lot more into the horror and a lot more into the gore, which was great. I thought that about the first movie, that there was moments of whenever someone died it was shown, it was gory, it was good, but then a lot of nothing was happening, whereas here it's a lot more spaced out, a lot more happens, and I was a lot more engaged this time. A lot of that comes down to the pacing of this movie is a lot better. They set up the camp really well. It takes maybe about 15 minutes into the movie and it's just showing you each of the characters. The sheriff, police officer, I called him the sheriff, is a counsellor in this movie, so you get to see a little bit about him. The main character, I know I called the first one Very Stranger Things. This one has Sadie Sink in it. She is the main character. She's phenomenal. She's really good in this role, in kind of horror and suspense. She absolutely killed it, and that was a huge factor into why I was so engaged. You've got all the cliches in this. So you've got her big sister's one of the counsellors who's very nice and perfect, like they call her out when she swears. She's got the perfect boyfriend. Then there's a couple that are kind of the goths, the emos, but the two girls of these groups used to be friends. So you've got the main character's sister and the emo girl, and they went separate ways. So all the cliches are there, but thankfully it doesn't bring down the movie because it keeps the suspense going. I'll say now, kids die in this film, and that really surprised me. I thought it was going to be the kids all got away somehow, or the counsellors were protecting them, and it would be a counsellor dies, the kid escapes, rinse and repeat. Nope, kids get slaughtered here. It doesn't show it as much as it does with an adult, obviously, but it doesn't hide it either. It shows you a fair amount without explicitly showing you a kid getting killed, which is a fair thing. One thing I now don't understand, when the killer's brought back, they're hunting down the person that's bled. That's fine. I don't get why the witch is just creating killers though, because in the first movie there was the kind of skull-faced kid who came back, and one of them was the kind of lumberjack, the kind of sack head character whose kind of origins in this movie. I don't understand the witch's logic on that and why she just wants to fuck shit up, really. She doesn't need to. But that being said, at any point he appears, and that's what I liked about this. There was a couple of times where a character, they'd be talking to each other, and the way the shot's set up, the character, they'll be standing next to each other and then they walk away like a few meters face to face, so you just know that they're going to come in behind them. But other than that, the counsellors, some of them are psychos, and not even the one that's murdering. One of them treats it like his own fucking army of these kids, which is just way too intense. And the kids are just absolute cunts. I don't get this logic that they've got against our main lead, Ziggy. They call her a witch, they say she's been possessed, they try and fucking murder her at the very start of the movie, so that's not a spoiler, right at the start of it. They just try and murder her, straight up, burn her. I don't get why they hate her so much. I never quite got that. Either it went over me, or I just didn't catch it. Not all the setups are paid off here, one of them being that in the first one, the sheriff put a bit of paper through under a door, and also our main characters had tried to phone the survivor of the first incident. This movie picks up on that, and played by Gillian Jacobs, or Gillian Jacobs. In either way, always good to see her. She then just kind of retells her story, and so that's how we come into this one. So for horror, definitely more deserving of getting an 18 title in this one. It definitely felt less kind of for kids, say kids, teenagers. Where the first one had its gore, and it definitely had 18 moments, a lot of it was just quite easy going. This one, definitely more horror, and really well paced. All the actors done a great job, done what they need to do, but Sadie definitely shined out of all of them. I mean, she had the most screen time, so there's more for her to work on here. Also, it's 1978, so there's a lot of cassettes around, and the music and the soundtrack in this film I just loved. I thought it was phenomenal. Wayward Son was playing, and I'm a huge fan of Supernatural, so when I heard that coming on, it was fantastic, and it's all the kind of era-specific songs. One thing that took me out the movie a few times was the character, and this is down to the writing. They'll over-explain something, and then just give you the answer. I'll give one example. They're working out that something's a map. The lead up to this is they look at the image, they look around them, and they can see so many exits around them. That lines up with what they've got. And then they go on to explain that they're stuck and that they need to get out and that there should be these exits. And they just explain it, but for about a minute. And then we as audience members know what they mean. Like, yes, it's a map. The characters clearly know because they're piecing it all together. But the shot has to end with one of them just explicitly saying, this is a map. We know it's a map. You don't need to do that. Quickly got back into the movie, but it just takes you out for a moment, and that happens a few times in this film. And these aren't stupid characters. They know what's going on. They're pretty clued up. I could have done without that. Similarly to the last film, so whilst the intro to this one didn't hit quite as hard, the ending did. The ending was fantastic. It was really good. Don't know who was going to come out of it. The setup to the movie, Gillian Jacobs is saying, there's a photo of me and my sister, and she didn't survive it. But you don't know at any point when this is going to take place or how, and then how it's done. I thought it was really good. It was really impactful. Another thing about this one is I feel this movie, although it's the second in what will be a trilogy, it has the ability to stand alone far more than the first film. Don't know about the third yet, it's not out, but this can stand on its own as well, and I think that's why I liked it a lot more. It had a clear arc to it, it had a clear structure to the movie, where it didn't need to rely on the first or the third. If you watch this fresh, you might not understand the intro, maybe 5 minutes, but as soon as it goes back to the camp, and it's in 1978, that whole camp section, you don't need other movies. Whereas the first movie spent a lot of its time setting up what would be the second. Now what I don't get is it's going to go further back with, so a lot of the things that I thought were setups in the first one might not even have been setups. Like, so the guy in the police station who Josh helped out of his handcuffs gave him a card for helping him. There was who Josh is messaging online. I'm not sure if these are setups or I'm just overthinking it, but I thought there might have been a reveal of some kind there. I'm all in. For this second film, I've said the first one I've rated as if you've got the time, watch it. However, the second one I'd be saying make time for this movie. It's building well. I'm hoping for a good finale. Definitely give the two of them a watch. That's all my thoughts on the movie without going too far into them. I appreciate you watching. If there's anything that you would like me to review, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. It means that anytime a new video is out, of course, you're going to be first to know. And thanks for watching.